Chapter 13. I slammed down the phone, then I settled back into my bed. I puffed up my pillows again and pulled the blankets over my shoulders. The wind howled outside my bedroom window, and shadows cast by the street lamp in front of our house danced over my wall. My brain was spinning. Who was that? I couldn't be sure, but it sounded like a boy. Why did he call me? The message I put on the newspaper gave Tasha's phone number. I didn't have long to think about it. The phone rang again. I grabbed up the receiver before the first ring ended. My eyes shot to the bedroom door. If Mom or Dad heard me getting these calls, I'd really be in major trouble. "Hello? Who is it?" I demanded. "Hi, I'm a creep," a different voice. A boy, speaking softly. "Huh?" I gasped. "I'm a creep. I called as soon as I saw your orders." "Oh, give me a break," I cried. I slammed down the phone. "What is going on?" I muttered out loud. I sat staring at the phone, watching it in the dim light, waiting. Was it going to ring again? "Ricky!" A voice boomed. I jumped a mile. The ceiling light clicked on, and Dad stood in the doorway in his blue and white striped pajamas. He scratched his cheek. "Ricky, what are all these calls about?" he demanded. I shrugged. "Calls?" He narrowed his eyes at me suspiciously. "I heard the phone ring 3 times, he growled. "Oh, you meant those phone calls." I tried to sound innocent, but I knew I didn't stand a chance. "You know you're not allowed to get calls after 10, Dad said sharply. He yawned. "It is after midnight. Now who is calling so late?" "It's some kind of a joke," I told him. "You know, kids from school." He brushed the sandy hair off of his forehead. "I don't think it's funny," he said. I lowered my head. "I know, but it isn't my fault." He raised a hand to silence me. "Tell your friends to stop," he said. "I mean it. If they keep calling so late, I'll have to take your phone away." "I'll tell them," I promised. I'd tell them to stop, I thought, if I knew who they were. Dad yawned again. He has the loudest yawn in the world. It sounds more like a roar. When he finished yawning, he clicked off the light and disappeared back to his room. As soon as he left, the phone rang again. "Please," I started. "I'm a creep," a whisper voice told me. "A girl this time. I saw your message. I'm ready. Ready to plant? Ready to rule. When will the creeps meet?" "Huh? Meet?" I didn't wait for an answer. I hung up the phone. Staring at the phone, I felt totally confused. Why am I getting all these calls? I wondered. Is there some kind of a mix-up? And why are the calls so strange? Why did that girl say she's ready to plant? Ready to rule? What's going on? And then my phone rang again. Chapter 14. The next morning I dragged myself to school. The phone hadn't stopped ringing until 2 in the morning. That's when I took it off the hook. I spent the rest of the night twisting and turning, thinking about all of the weird calls. I didn't fall asleep until 7, which is the time my alarm goes off to wake me up. At breakfast, my head started dropping into my cornflakes. I just wanted to go back to bed. But Mom and Dad didn't feel sorry for me at all. They were furious. The ringing phone had kept them awake, too. "You tell those kids not to call again," Mom warned, "or else I'll go to your school and tell them myself." "Oh, no, please," I begged. I'll tell them this morning. They won't call again, I promise." Can you think of anything more embarrassing than having your mom come to school, barge into your classroom, and lecture the kids in your class? They already made fun of me every day and called me Sicky Ricky. Can you imagine what they would call me if my mom came to school and yelled at all of them? Whoa! Just thinking about it gave me chills. It took all my strength to pull myself to school and slump through the crowded hall to my locker. "There you are!" Iris cried. I saw her waiting across from my locker. She wore a loose plaid shirt over navy blue corduroy pants. Her long plastic earrings jangled softly. She had been leaning against the tile wall, and now she pushed through the group of girls to get to me. "Here, Ricky, take a look." She handed me the latest copy of the Harding Herald. I grabbed it eagerly and lowered my eyes to the bottom of the front page. Yes, there it was, in tiny type across the whole bottom margin, my message. Except it had been changed a little. I moved my lips, reading it softly to myself. "Calling all creeps. Calling all creeps. If you are a real creep, call Ricky after midnight." Then it gave my phone number. My phone number, not Tasha's. My name and my number. I let out a low moan and weakly handed the paper back to Iris. She shook her head and tisk-tisked. You look terrible. Did you get any sleep at all? She asked. No, I murmured. I grabbed the newspaper back and read it again. How did this happen? I cried. Tasha's grinning face flashed into my mind. Tasha! I screamed her name, and then I took off. Pushing my way through groups of kids, hurtled over someone's backpack. I ran down the long, curvy hallway to the 8th grade classroom and burst into Tasha's room just as the early bell rang. My eyes frantically swept the room, and I spotted her near the front, handing a notebook to another girl. Tasha! I called, running up to her. I waved the newspaper in her face. I sputtered breathlessly. She tossed back her red curls and laughed. I caught your little joke just in time, she said. Did you get any calls last night, Ricky? A few, I muttered angrily. The whole class burst out laughing at me, even the teacher. All morning I had this feeling that eyes were watching me. Everyone was looking at me and laughing at me. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe I didn't. I kept thinking about the calls I'd received the night before. I knew they were all from kids at the school, but why were they saying such strange things? I saw your instructions. I'm ready to plant, ready to rule. When will the creeps meet? At lunch, I carried my tray towards the back corner of the lunchroom. I didn't feel like eating with anyone. I didn't feel like hearing more jokes or more kids laughing at me. I had to walk past the table where my 4 7th-grade enemies always sit. Uh-oh, I thought. Wart and David were squirting their milk cartons at each other. Brenda laughed so hard chocolate milk ran out of her nose. They see me, I'm going to get a milk shower, I realized. Too late to go the other way. To my shock, I passed right by the table without getting splashed or hit by anything. Wart didn't call out any nasty jokes. David and Jared didn't try to trip me. What's going on? I wondered, as I hurried to the far corner of the room. I know that they saw me. Why didn't they chant Sicky Ricky and toss their drink cartons at me the way they always do? They let me pass by as if they didn't know me. I slid my tray across the back table, and no one ever sits in that corner. It's next to the furnace duct, and hot air blows out over the table while you eat. I had picked up a sandwich of some kind of lunch meat and a bowl of tomato soup. I tilted my chair back against the wall and sat chewing on my sandwich, watching the other kids. Waiting for someone to come over and make a joke about how my tomato soup looked like clotted blood, or make a joke about all the calls I got after midnight. Waiting for kids to start chanting Sicky Ricky, or for Wart or one of my other pals at the table to start throwing food at me. But no one paid any attention to me. I leaned back and ate my lunch in peace. I finished the soup and half the sandwich. I picked up a bowl of chocolate pudding for dessert, but the crust was too thick to force my spoon through. I gathered up my tray and stood up to leave, and someone hit me in the forehead with one on a piece of paper. Hey! I called out angrily. But secretly I felt glad. I just didn't really feel normal eating a whole lunch hour without someone getting on my case. Rubbing my forehead, I glanced down at the paper and realized it had writing on it. A note. Someone had passed me a note? I unfolded it quickly and read the scribbled words. When will the creeps meet? Chapter 15. I glanced around the room trying to see who tossed the note to me, but no one seemed to be looking at me. Wart and his 3 friends were pushing in their chairs and carrying their trays to the tray deposit window. Did one of them throw it? I wondered. I read the note again, folded it up, and shoved it into my jeans pocket. Then I carried the tray to the window and hurried out of the lunchroom. I bumped into Iris in the hall. Hey, what's up? She asked. I shrugged. More creeps, I told her. They seem to be following me, I said. I guess I asked for it. I told you I had a bad feeling about that joke of yours, Iris replied. No way Tasha was going to let you get away with it. Don't rub it in, I murmured unhappily. If kids start calling me again tonight, my parents will totally go ballistic. I'll lose my phone for sure. Maybe you should just take it off the hook when you go to bed, Iris suggested. Smart. Iris is very smart, I realized. I'm not sure I would have thought of that. I led the way upstairs, and lockers were banging all around us. Kids were shoving on coats and pulling out books and notebooks, jamming stuff into their backpacks. It was almost time for the bell to ring. Iris stopped at her locker and turned to me. Her cheeks suddenly had pink circles on them. Would you do me a favor? She asked. Sure, I told her. Was she blushing? What was she going to ask? "It's so hard being the new girl in school," she said. "I thought I'd try making something really special for the school's bake sale on Saturday. You know, try to impress someone with my school spirit." Rah, rah. She shot up both hands like a cheerleader. I laughed and waited for her to continue. "Well," she hesitated, "would you come with me after school tomorrow to help me buy supplies? Flour and sugar and stuff?" "We could go." "Of course," I interrupted. I felt so excited I almost blurted out. No girl ever asked to go anywhere before with me. But somehow I managed to stay cool enough not to tell her that. "I'll meet you behind the playground after school tomorrow," I said. "We can shop for whatever you need and I'll help you carry it all home." Big man, huh? She thanked me and I jogged down the hall to my locker. I actually felt like skipping or flying. Iris liked me, I decided. A girl in my school likes me. You probably think this is no big deal, but it was a very big deal to me. It changed my whole mood. It made me forget all about my trouble I've been having. It made me forget I was me. What a great day, I told myself. What an awesome day. My happy mood lasted until I opened my locker.